to Uncorked and Unscripted, the podcast and video series that gives you VIP access to the unscripted stories of people I've met through events. In this episode of Uncorked and Unscripted, event planning extraordinaire Melanie Woodward of Event Planning Blueprint joins us to discuss using her talents to help other event planners launch their careers and her most memorable moments in the events industry. Now uncork your favorite beverage and listen up as we spend the next half hour unscripted. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Uncorked and Unscripted. I'm your host, Addie Graham Kramer. Today, we have Melanie Woodward with us today. I have been a fangirl of this woman for over a decade now. And we'll get, I know, a little fangirl, but slight crush on her over all these years. And I've had the opportunity to be a guest with her on different podcasts and different recordings over the years. But now my turn to interview you. What do you think?
I feel like I'm fangirling.
Oh, it's so exciting.
Thank you. I'm so excited, but I'm also a little nervous. I haven't done a video in a while.
Yeah, we're breaking you in. We're breaking you in. Well, prior to jumping online, we were just talking about children and motherhood and events. And I know we're going to get more into all of that here today, but thank you again for joining us here. Tell everyone just a little bit, where are you out of?
Yes. Thank you for having me and inviting me.
Yeah, of course.
I'm so excited to be here with you specifically as well. And everybody listening and watching. So my name is Melanie Woodward, and I am the creator of Event Planning Blueprint. I'm based out of Toronto. Yes, I'm in Canada. And
Are there no fans of Canada? Is that why you're like, and I'm out of Canada?
I'm out of Canada.
People love
I don't know
Canada.
what to say past that. It's like, I'm in Canada. And what?
I know. So maybe you're considered our first international guest, actually.
Oh,
so
wow.
now So fangirl international guest. We'll see what the trifecta ends up being here today.
But this is going already.
I know. Before we dive more into all that you do, all the events things, I'll talk a little bit more about like how we met and things like that going into it. But before we get into it, one of the things that we always ask all of our guests, because it's the uncorked piece, and then we've got the unscripted, which we'll get into today, but the uncorked part. So if you were to be a drink, any beverage, alcoholic or non, what would your beverage be that would describe Melanie and why?
Okay, the first thing that's coming to mind, even though I hardly drink anymore, is tequila.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
I love good tequila.
Yeah.
And I actually have this, I think, posted on social media somewhere, and I might kill this because I haven't looked at it in a while, but it's something about like, I don't need to be everyone's best friend. I just need to be a shot of tequila, something to that effect. Because it's got a little sass in it. It's got a little bite, you know?
Yeah, agree.
A little bit of good tequila. I'm good.
So you like tequila water or just straight tequila?
I like good quality tequila straight up. I don't want to dilute it and kill that nice flavor. And and you don't need a lot. It gives you, the agave gives you a nice little buzz and you're good.
Yeah, same thing. I think people in our industry, especially the events industry, think that we just party all the time. It's champagne, it's cocktail dresses, it's all these things. And that is so far from the truth. And at the end of the day, I think we are around it so much that we don't, and we have other lives outside of the event venues, And so I agree. I'm a big fan of tequila though as well.
Oh, good.
And always have been. And I will share that sometimes with our clients, and I cannot even count the number of bottles of tequila that we have gotten over the years.
Oh, well, I know where I'm coming then.
I know. Next time you're in the States, come over. But we are big tequila fans on this team. So that's awesome. Well, thank you again for joining. So I first came across Melanie back in 2013. So I launched the event company in October of 2013. I had already been in the events space doing events for corporate as well as nonprofit. And so I knew how to do events, but I didn't have my own plans or things like checklist, or I didn't take any of those documents from the companies that I was working for. Good employee, didn't take any of those pieces, but I just didn't have the base. And I came across Melanie and her company, Event Planning Blueprint, and you formed that company back in 2004. Is that right? 2004 ish? Yeah.
No, I started in the event industry in 2004, but I started
Oh, okay.
on Blueprint in 2013. So
Okay.
it was
So
months
similar time
after I
frame.
started that you found.
Wow.
You're probably
Wow.
one of
And
the first.
wow, interesting. So
Yeah.
tell people about your past in the events industry, which you've done some incredible things over the years,
Mhm.
and why you started Event Planning Blueprint. What's that look like?
Yeah. You're right. I have done some really fun things in the event industry. And if
Yeah.
I think about it, sometimes I forget how much I've done and what I've done and all the cool people I've run into across the board. Yes, I started in 2004 and I was working on some national events here in Canada, one called Juno Fest. So I planned, with the assistance, of course, of other people. It doesn't
Yeah.
take just one person. There's always a team
Right.
there behind the
Yeah.
scenes. We planned a 3-day music festival, which had over 100 bands come into the city where I was living at the time.
Wow.
And it was the best chaos you can possibly imagine. And I was hooked. I mean, I'd always like bringing people together and I'd always kind of dabbled in event planning. But that was really my first kind of big leap into the industry. That's where I started my business
Sure.
and then planned other national events and then smaller events, more intimate, like kind of corporate types of things.
Hmm.
Yeah. And worked with some, like with Hollywood celebrities, some
Yeah.
professional athletes. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Big brand
And
names in there.
yeah, and you get hooked. I think it is the chaos part of it. And for me, I've always said, it's not a 9 to 5, and it's not typically in a cubicle. And I think that's the fun part. I could be doing food tastings this minute, and the next minute, you're talking about porta potties at a festival.
Oh,
It's
fun.
so different. Yeah, a lot of fun. Every day is so vastly different. But
Yeah.
so why, after planning all these events, and I know you had worked with some incredible companies like Honda, and yes, some professional athletes, I think some HGTV stuff that you did, and that's where the fangirl of me is coming out, right? I've just watched your journey over all these years. And for
Yeah.
me, even starting the company at that time, again, I came into the mix because I didn't have some of those basic pieces, even though I knew how to do it. And I saw those pieces laid out and I knew the process. I just didn't have some of those pieces,
Mhm.
like how to charge clients. I know that's a big question that you get all the time, or
Yeah.
just the checklist or the templates or the timelines, and
Yeah.
just some of those pieces that I didn't have. But why the leap? Like, tell me about the leap and why you had your own company for many years
Mhm.
and then jumped into owning Event Planning Blueprint and kind of the launch of that. Why that leap? What'd that look like for you?
It started as it was, I would like to say it was intentional, but it wasn't necessarily that intentional. I love teaching people and I love helping other people. More than anything, I love helping people realize their true potential and their own
Yeah,
dreams. And I can be a facilitator in that. And that's where it evolved to. It
sure.
didn't necessarily start there. Like I said, not in an intentional way. I started with a few products that I had put up online, but I didn't really know anything. And keep in mind, this is 2013. Like the interwebs are there and we're all on
Yeah,
it.
right.
But I didn't know anything about digital marketing. And it was still a little bit, I was on the cusp of the wild, wild west,
Yeah, yeah,
especially in terms of digital marketing.
right.
And I put my product out and it started selling immediately, which was a real shock to me because I didn't even know if it was good. And
Where's the belief, girl? Where's the
well,
belief
I know, but I
behind
think
it?
I have a little bit of an imposter syndrome, like a lot of us.
Yeah, yeah,
So I knew,
yeah.
and the funny thing was, I remember sending it to a friend of mine who was in the digital marketing space and ran a very big digital marketing company that's still around today. And he looked at it, he was like, this is amazing. This is such a good product. And he's like, it's better than most of the crap out there. And there at that
Awesome.
time, which was, yeah, it's very flattering. And I really appreciated his
Yeah,
insight given that his position. Um, but I was still struggling with like, can I actually, people will buy this from me? And after that started, I kind of just let myself lean into it.
sure.
and built more products from there because I listened to the people who were buying things from me and what they needed and wanted.
Mhm.
Yeah. So from there, I built courses specifically for event planners. And
Mhm.
my flagship course was for people who wanted to start in the event planning industry.
Right.
And I still have that course. It's a certification course. It's awesome.
Incredible.
And I know I'm a little bit biased when I say this, but I've put so much into those courses and I really listen to my community when building out anything. So I have to like say thank you to everybody who's ever been in our courses too, because their heart and soul is also into it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. And then my favorite course, which is our business builders course, event business builders. And I love that course so much. And we get all sorts of people from all over the world with all different experience levels. Like we've had people in there who are beginners, although it is a better course for people who have like who are in your position,
Sure.
who have some event experience. But and so it's just grown and evolved from there. And it's just fun. I just love hearing all the success stories from people when
Yeah,
they
I'm sure.
yeah.
And there's like these aren't just a couple of courses. I mean, from what I remember, like if you're wanting to make that leap, which I had just made the leap at that point. So I was, made the leap. And I think actually when I first maybe met you, I was still in corporate and doing the company at the same time. And then I made the full leap, but I did that for just a short time, 6 weeks, actually. It's a very short time frame.
I
But
think
I
that's
think from what I remember, I mean, there were like 30 plus courses in that one section. I mean, these aren't just like you're going to come in, take one class, two classes,
no,
and be done. I mean,
it's full
you've
on.
got a thorough, thorough.
Yeah.
But I feel like from my perspective, I mean, that you were kind of a pioneer. I mean, not only for our industry, but for a lot of those pieces, it was very new into
Yeah,
that
for a
20.
very long time, I was one of a
Yeah.
few that were around. And that's true. I appreciate the pioneer title.
And we're not talking like bonnet pioneer. She's a hip
No,
pioneer.
remember, I'm a tequila drinker. That immediately gives me a little bit of edge.
It does. No bonnets, no covered wagon. She's a hip pioneer, my friends.
I like a good cup of tea, but it's probably
Oh,
going to have something in it.
that's okay. That's okay. But yeah, I mean, you were forging the way for so many of us. But then, like, even back then, like, there was no such thing as ClickFunnels or
No.
trying to get people to subscribe after this and buy those pieces. And so it
Yeah.
was very new. Was it scary for you?
I think I was naive enough and also I am a risk taker. So I'm sure there is an element of fear that happens when you're starting something new. But my personality is such that I just go for it. And whatever happens is going to happen. Because there's so many things that we can try and control, but there's so many things that are just out of our control. And I don't ever want to have a life where I regret not doing something.
Yeah.
So
We
it was worth it. It's all worth it. Like, and it could have been a complete flop. Thankfully, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, phew.
Yeah.
And we're still going. Like 2013, we're in 2024 now. Like,
Isn't that crazy?
whenever you're watching this in 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah. So are you all in on Event Planning Blueprint? Are you doing anything else? I mean, obviously your mom, and we'll talk about
We'll talk about
that here in a little bit too. But are you all in on Event Planning Blueprint, or is there any other side hustle?
No,
Like, are you doing any
I've
events
been
at all?
all in since
Yeah.
2000. Oh gosh. I mean, I was all in 2013. I did some events before then, but
Sure.
I really just love focusing on our clients.
That's incredible. And the community, really. That's the thing that I felt so connected to it, even in the beginning days or even now. I mean, you have this separate community that's formed and they're forming relationships and partnerships within, which is really awesome. I mean, again, like one of the biggest questions I think that I always see or asked is like, I don't know how much to charge, or, what about sponsorships? And I think you go through so many different pieces in the toolkit, but also beyond that. And I think that's the fun part that you're doing is just like events, right? You're bringing people together for a purpose. And these relationships that are formed outside of the four walls of every venue or your laptop is so vastly different. And you're helping to form that as well, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did you think it would be as big as it is now? I mean, like you said in the beginning, like you didn't know if it was viable or if it was going to be anything, and your friend is like, no, it's not crap, it's great, it's great. Like, did you think you would be where you are today with it?
Um, yes, I think deep down I did. I think because I believed in it so much, even though I had imposter syndrome, I still have this belief that I can do it and I know how to do it, right? That I think you still, if you're starting an event business, if you have an event business like you do, Addie, like you have to have a belief in yourself to actually make it happen and keep it going,
Yeah,
right?
agree.
So,
It's hard. I mean, our industry, as you know, I mean, the it is hard because you're managing so many different personalities. Huffington Post one year, like, put us in the top 10 most stressful jobs out there, up next to astronauts and brain surgeons and everybody else. And people are always like,
yes,
why? I can plan events. Oh, okay, that's great. You can. But
yeah,
when you're managing at one firm or one client, 5 different relationships from the marketing team to the HR team to whoever else, and then you've got all the production elements and all of these pieces. Sometimes you're a therapist, sometimes you're a legal analyst, sometimes you're all these things, right? Under the sun for an event. And people don't realize all the things. I said at one point, I said, yeah, it's a tough industry to be in because we have to deal with multiple personalities. And I think someone's like, what are you talking about? And I didn't mean like multiple personalities. I meant a lot of people with different personalities.
yes,
I mean, some of you might have come across some multiple personalities, but for the most
probably
part, it's a lot. But
it's a lot.
yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
So what's your day-to-day look like now? Because fast forward a few years, I've got
Mhm.
a little girl at home who is 4.5 going on 15. And it's been so fun to see that journey as well. And I have 2 boys. I don't have any girls. I always wanted girls. I'm such a girly girl, but did not. So I want to know what's momhood like now for you? Because this is so different
It is,
than
yeah,
managing day to day.
it's so different. I didn't realize how much time I used to have. Like, I always thought I was like
Yeah.
busy and I didn't have enough time on this. I'm like, wow, I had a lot of time. I had time to work out. Now
Yeah.
I'm like,
Right.
I got a workout in. That's like the best day ever.
Yeah. I know. I
Yeah.
know.
My day to day it's compartmentalized now, like because we get up, get ready for school. Here in Ontario, they start school at 4 years old. So she's already in the school system. And it's getting out the door, which I didn't realize was going to be such a struggle with small
Oh, yeah.
children.
Yeah, you pick those battles, mama, in the mornings. Like, if they're wearing whatever, then it is what it is. That's what I've learned over
Whatever.
the years. Yeah,
Alien
pick it. Yeah,
ears,
pick and choose.
bunny ears, like they've all gone out the door at
Yeah,
some point. Yes.
fun.
Unmatched shoes, like whatever. And it doesn't really matter. To be honest, I love it. It's so cute at this stage. And there's so much of our life where we're so worried about what everybody else thinks that I'm
Exactly.
just like, be you, girl. You be you. Like, you got it.
I
So,
love it.
yeah. And then I spend the rest of the better part of the morning and early afternoon before we do pick up working, whether that is with our community, whether that is doing videos like this one or videos
Mhm.
for our own purposes. Yeah, marketing. I do a lot of marketing sort of stuff. Yeah.
All the
Sales,
things.
all the things. It's great. I love it. It's great. It's just different now.
Yeah,
It's just
it
different.
is. Yeah, and I think it's managing time so differently, but also carving out what needs to happen in those days. And if it is where the business might not get as much attention that particular day because there's other pieces with family, and then that needs to take precedent. I think that's the beauty of, yes, owning your own company, but it's also the beauty of, I think, where society has allowed us to be able to go, but also we're a little bit more vocal, I feel like, these days than
Mhm.
even 10 years ago. I had a conversation with somebody just recently about female CEOs and female owners of companies, and how even just a decade ago, I didn't feel like there was as much rah-rah or girl boss, or I don't know. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like that's changed over the years too for you?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's changed for me personally, partly because if I look at my friend group or the people I'm surrounded with, I have so many strong entrepreneurial women in my
Yeah.
life that it just seems very natural for me. So I think I would have to think harder about that one. I don't.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, I did not at the time when I launched the company had that many female
Yeah.
leaders or CEOs in my life at that point in time. But I grew up in family business, both my side and then my husband's side. So I understood some of those pieces. But for me, I feel like it's more celebrated, I feel like,
Yeah.
than I think it was for me anyway, 10 years ago and what that's looked like. But
Yeah, fair enough. I
um,
think there's more female centric organizations and places for us to go and find this information as well. Because let's face it, like there was actually, I don't know who this person was. I probably saw them on Instagram when I was death scrolling at some point, but it really hit home for me. And she was talking about building her business, but not listening to how men build their business, because the majority of men often will have a significant other behind them, helping them do all the other things. Whereas often, and for better or worse, might still be a bit of a generalization. We're taking care of kids, we're taking care of home, we're building the business. She's like, I want to hear where those women get their support.
yeah, right.
And that for me, especially as a single parent, really hit. I was like, how do we do all this? And how do other women do all this? Because they do. I just don't know what their support network is like.
Right. I don't know if you get this question a lot. I do, even if I go to speak to different schools or if I'm mentoring any young women that are wanting to start their own companies, people always ask, like, what's the work-life balance? And I freaking hate that question. I hate it so much. And the reason why is like my balance is different than Melanie's balance. And
Sure.
we figure out what works for our family. And for the first couple of years of building the company, there was not, to be very honest, there was not a balance at all. It was so skewed towards the company and trying to launch and trying to make a name for ourselves that I felt like I was a shitty parent, to be very, very honest and very transparent. It was hard. I was not there for dinners. I was working at all hours of the night, trying to build, build, build. And I mean, it has paid off and I understand that part of it. But the fun part now is our boys are 15 and 12. They have the opportunity to see the work that we do all across the world and the organizations that we're a part of and the impact. It goes beyond the color of the linens and it goes beyond the food choices. We are truly sometimes saving lives and changing so many of them throughout some of the organizations that we work with. And you the same. I mean, your day to day, you are truly transforming people's lives as well, and
Yeah,
that's the cool part about
that's
what
the
you're
cool part.
doing.
It is the best part about anything that we do. And it's
Yeah.
cool that we get to do it through the event industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get to blend a whole bunch of fun things into one. And you're right, balance it out the way that it works for you. Yeah. I think that's great. Those are great lessons, though, for your sons, too.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see if they take it up. We'll see if they take up the industry.
They're so
They've been
young.
put to work many times over the years. I remember my one year, our 12-year-old, I think it was first grade or second grade, I can't remember. And the parents come in and be able to talk about what you do. And he had said, my mom plans parties and helps people. And so I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what we do. That's what we do day in and day out. But it's fun to see things from their perspective. But
Yeah.
now our team has grown over the years in terms of, this nonprofit sector and corporate sector. Have you ever put yourself, I know you talk about sponsorships and things like that throughout toolkits and different pieces throughout the courses, but do you feel more connected to one or the other, corporate, social events, nonprofit events? Are you connected
Not
to any of them either way?
particularly, because I
Okay.
think we're teaching business principles a lot, and a lot of those principles translate regardless of what industry or niche you choose within the industry. So, from my perspective now, no. When I started, I did more party corporate, but it was like corporate parties.
Right.
Yeah, so I didn't do things like big birthday celebrations unless it was for a corporate client.
Yeah, and for me, I think I don't know. I have different things about each of the sectors that we work in that I love. So it's hard for me to say. People ask like, "What's your favorite event?" And
Yeah.
there's certain pieces in every other one of those sectors that I enjoy being a part of. So it's really hard. It's like picking a favorite child. It's like it's just a hard one in my household. Some days I like one more than the other, but I don't know.
Fair.
What's your structure look like in building event planning blueprint over the years? Like, are you doing this all on your own? Are
No,
you
no.
okay? I've
It's
always wanted to know like what the structure has looked like.
Yeah,
Always.
no, it started on my own. I did start it, and I was just a solopreneur going at it and seeing, hey, can I make a go of this? And over the years, it's built up. It's kind of changed. I've had lots of different experts come in and do various parts of the course or do various trainings, whether those are free or paid courses.
Sure.
And then I have people behind the scenes, like a virtual assistant who helps me out. I am terrible at design anything. So, I need a designer to come in and make things look good because that is just not my forte. So we have people behind the scenes more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, I mean, it takes a team to be able to help.
Absolutely.
Help do all those things. I mean, you said that in the beginning too, when you're hosting events and planning. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you should work to your strengths. You're going to be more profitable. You're going to be happier. You're going to be more successful overall. And so I just work to everyone's strengths.
So over the years, like when you were in the events side of things prior to starting Event Planning Blueprint, what were some of your most memorable moments? Or one, I want to hear memorable, but I also want to hear like the biggest mess up that you've ever done. Can you tell us that?
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you think of like a big mess up?
This is the unscripted part where I have to.
Yeah, for sure. You don't have to say client names. You don't have to say client names.
No, I just have to jog my memory a little bit. And I feel like my memory's not as good as it was 10 years ago. So.
Children.
Yeah, children will do that. Yeah, they do that for sure. I'm like, what was I doing 2 minutes ago?
I know.
I came upstairs and I forget why.
I know.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, let me start with one that's coming to mind. One of my biggest mess ups was for a national event. We had 30,000 people coming to this event from across the country. And I forgot all the sponsor banners. So this one particular event went on with no sponsorship recognition at all.
Wow. Like you didn't print them or you just forgot them somewhere?
Forgot them. Completely
Melanie.
Them. Like I still look at my face. I'm like,
I mean,
do that.
That's expensive tuition is what we always tell people, you know?
That was a very expensive
thing
to learn. So there were
How did you handle that with the client? Was that a difficult conversation?
Yeah.
Did they recognize? Did they know that it was missing?
That's how I found out. They recognized it before. And there was media. It was not good.
Yeah.
I never made that mistake again.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. It is an uncomfortable situation. Very uncomfortable. It's not one you want to be in.
Right.
We're all human. We make mistakes. Luckily we rectified it and, gave them other things and more recognition in other spots, bigger recognition. We had that opportunity to do that, thankfully. It wasn't just a one-off thing where it was
good.
Oops, sorry. Yeah. I have to give them everything back. So that's my most memorable mess up. There's probably been a few others. And in terms of memorable
success, good success, that's memorable to you.
Yeah. So I was helping plan, not Grand Prix itself, but all of the events for Honda outside of Grand Prix. And they're at that point, I don't know if they still are because I don't really follow them as much anymore, but they were the major sponsor for Grand Prix here in Montreal. And so I managed all of their events happening around that. And they had over 200 delegates come. So the president of Honda was there from Japan. And it's very interesting working with other cultures in the sense that in Japan, it's not customary to have your president on floors in hotels that are below their subordinates. But in North America, all of our best hotel rooms are in the middle.
Yeah.
And so you have to do juggling when you've got 200 people. So things like that. But that event, the reason that event was so successful for me personally was because the team came to me after and they complimented how I handled the entire planning of it.
Good for you.
Yeah. And it was event planning is very stressful. You brought it up earlier. It's one of the top most stressful careers you can possibly choose. And I totally believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much on your shoulders and you have so much responsibility in different areas and you're juggling a lot, and not just people, but a lot of details as well. And so for my team to come, I had a team of 35 running that, to come and like just compliment me on that. And these are people who've been running or part of that event for years. And I only done it like
Incredible.
one time. And I was just like, that to me was,
Oh,
and yes, the client was happy too. And that's obviously an important factor in all of this.
right.
But personally, it was more that my team just thought I did a great job.
Yeah. And I think to be recognized, yes, by the client, but when you have others that are involved with the client
Yeah,
and they recognize and see the success of it, that's where we find as wins too. Because,
absolutely.
yes, I mean, you're working together in this harmonious effort to pull it off. And when you've
Yeah,
got all of those events that are happening, the shoe is going to drop in some way, shape, or form, but it's how quickly that you can retrieve it and move on and go. But when you get the accolades and the praise from outside of even just the client, that's the big win.
it is a big win.
Kudos
Yeah,
to you.
and that, thank you. And that will translate into the clients feeling it, like you said, right? Like they're going to recognize that, because if the people managing them are happy, that it's a win-win for everybody. So yeah,
Good for you.
thank you.
What does it feel like now looking at some of your graduates, those that have gone through some of your courses, those that, started when you had launched the organization? Like, how does that make you feel when you're seeing some of these people over the years and growing and changing? And some may be in the industry still and some may not be. What's that
Yeah,
feel like for you?
I get a little verklempt. I'm just like, it's one of
Yeah.
my favorite things about all of this is that I get to help people just do what they love to do. And so when they're in that flow or their own zone or doing, getting the clients and the events that they want to work on, like
Mhm. Mhm.
I get a little teary.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Isn't it awesome? Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what I was gonna say, like, I mean, I am so proud of you for doing all of it, but then I see some of those same people in those conversations that we're chatting with 10 years ago, and to be able to see what it's like. We just celebrated 11 years, and
congratulations.
thank you. It is just so it is very rewarding, yes, to be able to see, but also from your side, it has to feel like proud mama moment in a
It is
sense as
proud.
well, just
Yeah.
to be able to see some of these organizations grow and change and flourish, or they may take a whole nother path, but what they learned through some of the courses is perhaps put them on a different path as well, which is good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen
What's
that a lot as well, where people just
Yeah.
they take a different course at some point. Like one particular student, she came in, she was actually a nurse to begin with, and then she injured herself,
Wow.
so she wasn't able to do her nursing job, and she'd always wanted to plan events, but she lived in a very small community. And she came into my course and she was on fire, this woman. I love it. She started in January, and by April, she was booked for a year and a half full of events, like
Wow,
planning,
on fire.
on fire. Yeah. And now she's gone on to do other things because she lives in a small community. She made some incredible connections. She was working with like the mayor of the town on their events, the city events and or town events.
Yeah. Good for
So
her.
yeah, it's awesome. So there's different evolutions of all of it.
Yeah.
And one
Well,
leads.
it gives people, I think, the courage to be able to say, "Can I do it?" Right? Like you've got the course of like, "Hey, you're thinking of this, and do you like to organize like things for your family or whatever it looks like?" And then you have this nudge, right, to see like, "Can I do it? Can I do it?" And even if it's not their end goal of being in the event industry, it does at least put some legs on it, right, or put some legs to it to see like what could they potentially do.
Well, look at how amazing your business is. Like it's incredible what you've done in 11 years and how much you've grown and how you've expanded. Like
Yeah.
case
Thank
in
you.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We love it. We
you can
love it.
tell. I
I
follow
will sing
you.
your praises beyond,
Yeah.
beyond, but what is next for you? Like, what's next for you? Like, personally, not just professionally. What's next for you? Anything big? Are you gonna,
You
like,
know,
train for any marathons or anything coming up?
no,
Just
not anymore.
I know.
Not anymore.
I know.
No, I actually
Yeah.
no, I wish I could. Like I really enjoyed. I'm not a runner. And it's funny because I've done 2 half marathons, I've done a full marathon. Um, and I still don't consider myself a runner.
That's more than I have ran. So good for you.
Yeah, I just never really loved it. I did it because I like the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, running, no. You know what? I don't know. After having a child, I think things just, they change. They're always changing. And in terms of like daily life, I don't think I need the big, aha, I'm going to do this.
No, I know. I agree.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
don't need it as much anymore. Excitement is
I
different. Just looks different, and it's good.
It is very different. I think, I think so many of us are like, oh, when you turn 30, you're going to do this. And oh, I'm turning 40, it's this. And for me, it's, I think, these little milestone moments of personally, family wise, company wise, that I don't have to have some big, lofty goals about I don't know, what's next for me. And people ask that
Yeah.
too. And for me, I'm loving what I'm doing, and I love the pace at what we're at, and
Yeah.
being able to celebrate different things and take time out to be able to just be,
Yeah.
and that's the fun part.
It is a fun part, but we're also very blessed because both of
Hmm.
us get to help. We don't have to help like immediately thousands of people, but it trickles out, right? There's a spider effect of the people we help also help other people. And that's equally as gratifying to me as anything else. So I'd rather help other people get what they need to do, and then everyone's good. We're all
Everybody's happy.
happy. It's
We're all
all
happy.
good. We're all happy.
Okay, before I end, Ariana has this stack of questions here that
Sure.
we always ask a guest, and I have no idea what these questions are. This is again the unscripted piece. So I'm going to ask one of these questions
Okay, I
and
love
see what
it.
it
This is
is.
like my
Oh, this is a
definition.
fun one. Yeah. What's your favorite aisle in the grocery store, Melanie?
Ooh, I love grocery shopping so much.
You do?
I love
Oh,
I love
I
it.
am not a grocery store. Nope.
Oh, there is something so satisfying about wandering slowly through a grocery store and looking. You know why? Because I like to look at all the things. I don't need to buy them all, but I like to see what, I'm like, oh, what do you do with that? And I look up, if I don't know what it is, I'll look it up and be like, what do you do with this thing? No, I love it. I would actually have to say the produce section is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The perimeters.
Yeah. The
Not
perimeters
even
are
an
my
aisle.
favorite for sure. Yeah.
Good for you. What's your favorite fall go-to, like cooking wise? Do you have any fall favorites that you're cooking
Ooh.
up right now?
So I don't like freezer food. And what I mean by that is I don't like making things and putting it in the freezer because if I do,
Oh, no, me either. It doesn't come out of the
it
freezer.
doesn't
That's
come
why.
out. Yeah, and it gets thrown out
Yeah.
because it has, yeah. So I have to be
Yeah.
very careful about what I'm making because I like cooking and I like the process of
Yeah.
cooking. Um, what's my favorite? I'm gonna say like some sort of stew,
Mm-hmm.
like a beef bourguignon type of
Yeah.
thing is really yummy. Something comforting.
Like
I really
warm.
get
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Warm and comforting.
warm and comforting. I really get into cooking in the fall.
Yeah, I'm a baker in the fall. I love to bake and I love the smells of baking. And for me, I'll share with our team sometimes we always do like high, lows, and gratitudes every team meeting. And I will talk through like one of my favorite things, even most of the time in the fall, not necessarily through the summer, but I just love the baking. It calms me. You know how you're like the slow pace of like strolling through the grocery? For me, it's the baking. And
Yeah.
I just love it. It's the slowdown, it's the intentionality. I mean, you can't put too much of these things, so it's following those pieces,
Yep.
and yeah, I love that part of it.
Nice. I
I
like
know.
eating the baking.
Yeah, I am not. I know you said I do not like grocery store shopping. I do it as much online, and then I pick it up because I will spend way too much. But then when I go to the grocery store, I'll be strolling around like, oh my gosh, look at this! I had no idea they had these things because I just go to my staples every week.
And especially I like fancy grocery stores too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I don't go to them all the time. Like I have both, I go to both sides, like the least expensive and the most expensive, but I love looking at like, who are these people who buy $25 or $25 bottles of olives
Yeah,
and it's got 10 olives in it. I'm
I
like,
know.
what does that olive taste like?
I know. I know.
I like looking at it. I'm not going to do it.
I love it. Well, maybe I need to just stroll around. Maybe that'll be a goal this next week.
Okay. You let me know.
Scroll around. Yeah, I will. I will. Well, thank you for joining me. I'm so proud of your success. Keep being that hero and that advocate for so many in our industry, because we as an industry are so grateful for you, truly, Melanie. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, for those that are tuning in, be sure to check back every other Thursday as we launch a new episode of Uncorked and Unscripted. You can find us on Apple Podcast. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube. Until then, friends, cheers. Thanks for listening to this episode of Uncorked and Unscripted. Make sure to follow and rate this podcast wherever you're watching or listening. Stay connected with us by following us on social media at Uncorked Unscripted on Instagram and Facebook, and at Uncork Unscript on Twitter and TikTok. And if you really enjoyed this episode, do us a huge favor and send it to a friend. See you soon. Bye.